Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right. If you ever chased a code section for 45 minutes only to realize you were looking at the wrong adoption, the wrong amendment, or even the wrong year, welcome home. The code didn't beat you. The workflow did. Today, I've got Scott Reynolds, co-founder and CEO of UpCodes, here to talk about how they're turning compliance research into something that's actually fast, searchable, and believe it or not, enjoyable. We'll get into AI with citations, project-based compliance and workflows, and how to cut down the rework that quietly murders schedules and budgets. So with that said, construction isn't slow. It could be the building codes that are slowing you down. But before we get into any or all of this, we got to give a big shout out to our supporting members. Brought to you by Graitec, developers of the complete light gauge steel and wood framing software for Revit StrucSoft. Offsite, modular, or prefabricated, StrucSoft Framer turns Revit into a powerful manufacturing tool, automating every step of the DFMA process from design to final delivery. StrucSoft doesn't just work with Revit, it transforms it. Jumpstart your designs at StrucSoftSolutions.com. Halleck Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for offsite modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, halleckltd.com. All right, a big thank you to all of our supporting members and all of you going across the ticker below. We can't do any or all of this without all of you supporting us out there. This is an invite-only show, and we're here to bring you the knowledge and information so you can build it better, faster. And today is going to help you not only build it better, faster, it's going to save you money, time, headaches, and a lot of reading. All right, with that said, construction isn't slow because teams lack talent. It's not. It's slow because information is fragmented, ambiguous, and risky. Do building codes sit at the center of that problem? Do codes affect design, cost, schedule, permitting, and liability? Yet most teams still rely on PDF, bookmarks, and tribal knowledge. Errors don't show up immediately. They show up as rework. So with that said, let's bring Scott onto the show and let's learn a little bit more on how he's going to save all of you a lot of time and headaches. Scott, thank you and welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me on, Dave. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, this is awesome. I mean, codes is such a big deal right now across the board, not only in traditional construction, but the offsite construction industry. It is a nightmare. How many pages is the code book now? 4,000, 5,000 plus all the subsidiary code books?
Right. I mean, yeah, you have a whole breadth of codes you have to follow. The more complex the project, the more codes you're following. It's just thousands and thousands of these pages of code you got to follow for any given project.
Well, listen, before we get into all of this, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital. We're going to have your family members, and it might just get a little embarrassing, but the floor is yours. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from the architecture industry, but going back a little bit before that, when I was growing up, I loved building things, loved using Legos, constructing different designs, and then graduated to popsicle sticks with hot glue, and it would build all these things. Like part of my childhood is growing up and going to the lake country, and my dad said if we want to build like a diving tower, we had to prove it out with popsicle sticks. What was the design? How is it going to work? What are the cross bracings? You probably got it completely wrong at the time, but we built those models out of popsicle sticks. We'd see that come to life in the physical world. So really loved the design side. Went to high school, loved art. Teachers encouraged me to go to architecture school. Went to architecture school, absolutely loved it. Amazing, unrestrained design, no budgets, right? No codes. Your building is really, and designing is really fun projects. But then you get out of school, you get out of academia, you join the workforce, you join industry, and then you realize you barely know how to put a building together. There's budgets, client budgets you're working towards. There's site constraints. Like we're going to talk about today, there's a whole lot of regulations you have to follow. And it really, I think for me, took out the excitement and passion from design, from trying to put together these amazing buildings and spaces, dealing with the cumbersome process of looking up the code. I went to Hong Kong to start my career, worked a couple of years in Hong Kong doing kind of mixed use, large commercial and residential projects. And it really kind of got a sense for, or started to how to put a building together. What are the regulations? Like regulations in a different language is really difficult. Moved stateside to New York City at the time. But lo and behold, the US is even harder. It has more regulation for good reason. It's a safe and it's a very sophisticated kind of regulatory environment, but so hard to figure out what the code is for a given project. And we were making mistakes left and right. There was no structured workflow for it. And that's really where we started. We just wanted to solve that pain point. How can we bring software? How can we bring structured workflows to make it as easy as possible for professionals in the space to understand what code is applicable, and then to actually apply that to the project?
What years were you working in Hong Kong and in New York City at some of these bigger firms?
So Hong Kong would have been around, if I remember correctly, 2013, 2014, and maybe into 2015. A really fun time. I mean, I'm sure it still is, but the construction industry moves so fast. Big budgets, big projects that move comparatively at lightning speed. So it was a really fun time.
Before AI, right? Now, this is before AI. So when did you actually start UpCodes?
It was 2016, I believe. Yeah, in the beginning of 2016.
In the beginning of 2016. What was the aha moment? I've had enough. This is ridiculous. I can't believe we're still doing it this way, that you said we're going to do this.
I don't know if it was one aha moment. I think it was death by 1,000 cuts. It was the accumulation of frustration that I was going through with the code, but also all my colleagues were going through with the code. And let's face it, like there are some, maybe some jaded professionals in the space who are like really frustrated, and they're ahead of you in their career, maybe 10, 20 years ahead of you in the career. And you're saying like, how do you like it? And you can put yourself in their shoes. Like, this is where I will be if things go well and I'm successful. This is where I'm going to be in 20 years.
Let's get into the core of the problem here, right? Why do codes break projects? And walk us through kind of like jurisdiction, right? Because they're different everywhere you go, right? They're constantly changing. The legalities of codes are constantly changing. Teams are interpreting codes differently and wrong. Talk to me about where you see the core problem is and what is actually causing the most projects to have problems, due to the code.
I mean, you nailed at least the first half. It's just, what is the applicable code in this jurisdiction? You get regulated at the federal level, at the state level, at the city level, and then sometimes the local county level. But those different levels and the different codes are changing over time. You get different adoptions in different jurisdictions. You get amendments changing the code. So the first problem is just nailing down, like, what is the up-to-date relevant code for my project in this jurisdiction? That alone is a burden. But once you have that, how do you actually understand the code, apply the code, and then communicate that code to the inspector, to the plans reviewer, to the owner, and track and project manage that all the way through?
Well, I mean, that's kind of it, right? I mean, there's so many different levels to what happens with a code, because it kind of cascades into so many other things, right? You got design, you got plan review, you got construction, you got the inspectors in the field, right? And all of this, if you get it wrong in the beginning, can cascade into a huge problem for everybody all the way through, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. You get these problems upstream. They can be relatively small, or you think they're small problems, but those mature into very big problems downstream. Like God forbid, but if that gets into construction and it's the wrong code, you built the wrong thing, that's just construction rework. Completely avoidable. Could avoid that had you caught it upstream.
Let's talk about UpCodes. What actually is UpCode?
So we bring together the regulations. We get the codes of different jurisdictions across the country. We do it at the federal level, state level, major city levels, and a lot of county levels. So we just bring that all together into one place, have a single searchable database for the code, and more recently brought AI onto that, so you can actually rapidly parse through these codes. Just to give you an idea of the breadth, there's over 6 million sections of code on the site. On average, over 12,000 of those sections are updated every month. So it's basically this infrastructure that monitors and consolidates all that code.
That just makes my head hurt. That sounds like a whole lot of spreadsheets to have to look through, and pages and books. So UpCodes itself, and we're going to get into a demo. So for everybody out there watching, you're actually going to walk us through what UpCodes does, right? But basically, like you said, it's a unified code library, but it goes so much further than that. It's not just about the searchability of the code and the jurisdiction, local jurisdiction searchability of the code, but your system actually takes it a whole nother step further, that you can actually visually see what that diagram is in the code book, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So you get the code, but there's a whole educational layer added on top of that. So how do you start to unpack the code? How do you take someone who's never seen this part of the code, maybe hasn't worked on that project type, hasn't worked in that jurisdiction, and educate them, get them up to speed as quickly as possible?
So I'm going to actually share here on the, well, maybe I'm not going to share at the moment. We lost some connection, I think, on your end, Scott. So, but we're going to actually run through the diagram and the show of everything on how people will actually search and use your product. And I'm going to pull up your website as well while you're pulling that up. Are you seeing it on your ends? There we go. Perfect.
Yep. Yeah,
got
there
it.
we go. Yeah, so I could give like a really quick overview here, but
Yep.
On the left-hand side, you'll see all those jurisdictions. So this is where we track at various different levels. So let's say like Colorado. So Colorado at the state level, going through all the different codes. So you get code types like building code, electrical codes, energy codes, fire codes, fuel gas codes, performance codes. Just trying to track all of those and you can see right here on screen, like this is the breadth of the amount of code you have to follow. Going back to those pain points, one of the big areas we suffered from was just missing code sections. You're looking at the building code, but you don't realize the fire code or maybe the electrical code or the accessibility code impacts the same project or that same piece of the building. I'll just point out like Denver as well, so we can jump into Denver. It looks like Denver has amended the code, so going above and beyond just the state level. So we capture those local amendments too. I'll point out as well, it's not just important to have today's code, but you need a backdated catalog of the code. Maybe you're permitted in 2010, maybe you're permitted earlier. So how do you go back in time to historical editions of the code? Kind of a fun story there. New York City, one of the most popular codes used to be the 1968 building code. And it's still popular. I don't know if it's the number one anymore, but there's certain advantages developers and builders can get with a historical code. And we see a ton of traffic in these, literally the 1968 building code.
So, I mean, why? What is the attraction to that? Like, to me, I'm like, all right, 1968 doesn't even sound like it'd be applicable today.
So you can't do new construction under that code, but if you're doing an alteration or renovation of an existing building,
Yeah.
in some cases you can follow that older code. That older code is more lenient, so you can get away with more. So you get this, kind of tiptoeing the line that a lot of these developers and builders will do in some of these jurisdictions to stay in that older code, so you can get away with more, I would say.
Got it. All right, so perfect. So we're in the Denver building code now, but you have cities and states all on that left-hand side. I mean, it's very easy to see. You just go to that, whatever city and state you're in, and click on it.
Right, exactly. And then you can click through, you can see the different code. Let me jump to, say, like chapter 10 of the Denver code. So, this and for us was a big move. So it's digitizing the code, making it easy to search, easy to look through, and then starting to add some of this educational content on top. So let me just pull this up. I think a lot of the folks in the industry are visual. So
yeah,
the text is just this phone book sized piece of text, obviously some illustrations in there, but really we're like visual people. And I think that's how we understand concepts. So we try to layer on as much of this educational content on top so people can go through, look at examples, look at relevant or related code sections. So start to tie those different code sections together, and just a really effective way to level up your team. So if you have someone on site, they can be on their phone, they can be on their tablet, they can pull up the website, they can find the code, but they can understand how do you actually apply that code.
So if I had to search up the code on, FAR, like Florida area ratio or something like that, it's searchable. I don't have to sit there and go to the index, and like I can just type in generally what I'm looking for and it'll pull that up.
Yeah, let me do like exactly. Let me do one that I think might cut across a couple different codes here. So yeah, actually this is great. So like handrail extension. So we're getting handrail extension coming from the building code. Let me start to filter some of the code books here, but I'm sure it's going to come from the fire code as well. Maybe we can layer in. Oh yeah, like here it's pulling up the fire code, more fire code, and it'll jump you right to those sections as well. So that's a way to stitch together all those different codes within a given jurisdiction.
Now, is AI the one stitching this together, Copilot, or is Copilot actually doing a whole nother layer on top of this?
So a whole nother layer. So this is kind of the bread and butter. This is where we started bringing it together. We just saw a manual search there, but I can jump over to Copilot. So that's our AI that's purpose built for the industry. So it's an AI that's dedicated to the codes, to building products. We get to that in a second. But let me just do like this is like a pretty simple example, but it'll be restrained to Denver, to the current code. So that's critical. So we want to take the AI and say, okay, fence it in to just this jurisdiction, to the up-to-date related code with the amendments in that jurisdiction. So let's say you're in New York in a historical edition, or the current one, or you're in Ohio, or you're in Florida, or you're in Washington State. It'll fence it into that exact jurisdiction. And here, it's stitching together a bunch of different code sections. And this is what used to take me hours. Like this, it's hard to understate the difference that professionals have today than I used to have working in architecture. Like I would be flipping through the physical book, researching these calculations, these lookup tables, hopefully have the right code and try to document this and send it. But here in maybe 1 second or 1.5 seconds, we have our answer to this question. One van accessible space. It's pulling together these different lookup tables from the code. And then also layering on some of those educational content. So going a little bit beyond the code and showing people how to see it. Now
to visualize it. So I mean, it's really codes being connected to like real world building decisions in real time is what's happening here, right? Because you got the visual side, you got the actual legal side of it, and then you have almost the how-to side of it with the visual pictures.
Right. Yeah, and I think the hard part is Building the building. It's getting the building code compliant, finding the right information. The up-to-date information should be the easy part. And that's exactly what we're trying to focus on. No matter who you are, if you're a homeowner, if you're a builder, if you're an architect, an engineer, you can just go on, you can answer these questions and you have it at your fingertips so you can apply it. And just trying to make that as seamless as possible.
Tell me how up to date this is. I mean, is it real-time information?
So it's really interesting. So let me go back to the code library here. We have a team of 35 people who do research, and they're calling building departments, they're calling fire departments, planning departments across the country. Now we work with a lot of those departments, so we'll get information from them. And maybe some of the listeners have seen this, but there is a variety where some departments are very kind of organized and up to date. Like let's take New York City, California. We'll know maybe a year in advance of when a code is going to change. And we'll get that as soon as possible. So as soon as we know that there's going to be a modified code in the future, we'll get that on the system so people can start designing for a future state of the code. Now that's the best case scenario. There are some jurisdictions, I won't call anyone out here, but there are some jurisdictions that are really, really slow. And we've even seen retroactive effective dates where they released the code and said, guess what? That code is effective as of like 3 weeks ago, but I'm only releasing this code to the public today. That's the most extreme. And those are, scrambles. We try to get that within as fast as possible to get that live to the users. And there's a whole notification system. If you're working in a jurisdiction, it'll notify you like, hey, here's a new code that's been changed in, let's say in like Denver or something, and push that out to folks. But that is a huge part of what we do is trying to just wrangle like literally thousands of these AHJs in these jurisdictions across the country.
Would you say the biggest differentiator between your online codes adoption and maybe people that are out there would be the visualized aspect of this? And I would also say the shared access that kind of aligning teams better.
Yeah, I would say that's one big component of it. What we haven't talked about today is the project management side of it. And I won't get too into detail. Like this gets pretty nitty gritty, but it's not just seeing the code, but how do you capture the code, capture that research, do things like generating checklists for your team. Let me see if this has a checklist. Oh, great. So I'm going beyond just finding your code answer, but how do you document that? How do you bring in your team? How do you generate reports? How do you save that code research for a future project? So that's all this capture around the project management, and really fundamentally just trying to capture the know-how, the institutional knowledge of an organization so everyone can leverage that. So if you have someone on site and they're building something, they're doing a little bit of code research, how do you save that code research and then propagate that to everyone in your organization so you're floating the whole team up? You're rising the tide for everybody, whether you're building department, a fire department, maybe a GC. How do you make sure everyone is benefiting from the same thing? So going back to the project management, this is how you do it. You capture it here. There's different ways to create the checklist, manage the checklist. There's a specification workflow. There's product schedules. So there's a building product and material workflow where you can start to save schedules and generate the specifications. And then also a way to like upload documents like drawing sets or communication with the AHJ.
So this isn't just a library. This is actually, like you said, a construction management or workflow process for whatever teams are involved in this. I mean, is this something that the building official could be invited to be able to visualize a project as well, or is it more just internal?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only invited in to see it, but they actually leverage the platform as well. So we work with departments across the country. These are plan reviewers, these are building inspectors, building officials, fire marshals. They're using the same product on their side of the table as well. But yeah, absolutely. The whole idea is collaboration. How do we get everyone onto the same page and bring as much transparency to that conversation as possible? So we're just operating from the same ground truth.
I mean, so this is interesting, right? Because now it's not like I said, it's just not a library. It's allowing people to stop guessing at what somebody else may be interpreting the code as and putting the unified information all in one spot so they can see it, agree on it or disagree on it before it moves forward.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's, going back many years, it used to be the case we were just arguing what's the relevant code, what is applicable today, what's the amended code, and just trying to get to that same level of understanding. But now today with the tool, the conversation is leveled up dramatically. Now it's okay. We know it's the adopted code. We know it's the up-to-date code. We've stitched together through AI like that understanding. Now let's just make sure the project meets that code, and have we interpreted that the right way. So I think it's dramatically leveling up that conversation and moving the ball down the field quite a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you guys have been in business for quite some time. Talk to me a little bit about who's already adopted this and who UpCodes is for.
Yeah. So we work across all user segments. We work with homeowners, builders, architects, engineers, GCs, governments, insurance companies, students, professors. So really across the whole industry, anyone who's involved in construction. And the community has grown pretty significantly over time. So we're a little over 800,000 monthly active users. So just an
Wow.
enormous kind of community that goes on. They've researched the code, they're communicating with the code, they're sharing snippets, and they're talking to one another. We recently passed a 250 million page views on the site. So just the amount of consumption of the codes is pretty staggering. Like there is a lot of, it
Right.
turns out, a lot of people researching code across the country.
So I just want to say it one more time. You said 800,000 active users of UpCode?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's impressive, man. Congratulations.
Well, and I'd say like a third or maybe half the team comes from industry. Like our
Right.
ambition is just to make these workflows easier, solve a lot of these pain points we struggled with. And I think probably the most fulfilling thing is just seeing the amount of like consumption that people are doing of the codes, getting the user feedback of, saying how much it changed their workflow.
Right.
It really is meaningful for the whole team.
What else does it do that I didn't ask you about?
So I mentioned briefly, but we also think about building products, assemblies, and all the material. So kind of zooming out a little bit, the codes and regulations are very good at saying what your requirement is. So let's say 2-hour fire rated wall. It will define that requirement. But how do you satisfy that requirement? That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
So that's what we're getting into now. So starting to stitch these things together where the code says you have a 2-hour fire rated wall, but what's the UL assembly? Like what are the recipe of building products I can put together to make sure this is 2-hour fire rated and I'm guaranteed to be compliant to the code? So you got your assembly, but now what are those building products that come together? So being able to research those building products, seeing the performance metrics, is it certified for your jurisdiction? So really completing that kind of end-to-end process.
Well, it actually, if I search in saying, hey, listen, I got this problem, I got a 2-hour fire rating, I got to meet on this wall, I got a building maybe 3 feet from the building I'm building, ... Can you recommend some options of products I can use on this commercial building, whatever? And will it recommend like these different options?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And assemblies as well. So if we're saying, and you could also filter it by that as well, saying,
Yeah.
okay, let's stick with walls, but I need an STC rating. I need a fire rated rating as well. I want to use maybe this manufacturer. So you can start to layer that in and then get your resulting options from that.
I mean, that's impressive. All right. Now I'm getting the 800,000 users and why they're using it, right? What's the adoption rate? Say, hey, Scott, I'll use an architect firm because they have a bunch of people that would have to use it, right? Or even a builder or developer that has their own design and drafting teams. I'm interested in this. We're super busy. I don't have a whole lot of time for retraining, ... How does it work if I call you, Scott? What are you going to tell me?
So the number one thing, you don't, and this is just a software principle, so I would suggest anyone do this. Your software should never require training, and everyone's busy. People are in the field, they're in the office, they're answering client calls. you don't have time to sit down for like a 5-hour training on a software. So just from a product perspective and a software perspective, it's got to be intuitive. It's got to be easy to adopt. It's got to slide right into people's workflows and immediately provide value for them. So we just invite them to try it. And it needs minimal training or often no training. And people can get in there and try it out. And it kind of fits like a glove. Like they get in there and
Right.
immediately see the value.
Yeah, I can't see why anybody wouldn't be using something like this, especially if you're doing a lot of projects and large scale projects. I mean, can say I'm a single family home builder, I do a couple homes a year. Can I use this product?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a lot of single family builders on there, like the single family builders, but also the contractors they work with, electricians, roofers, plumbers, really across the board.
So I got a question from Jennifer here that she put up here. You know, it says, let's see, Scott, what about offsite manufacturers who are trying to productize their offering and are possibly shipping the same building to different states? How do they navigate conflicting codes from different region states?
Yeah. So we see this a lot and work with a lot of users on this. So one of the offerings is to map out the codes across the jurisdictions. And actually, I could probably share this on screen here, but there is a way to compare jurisdictions to one another. So let me use this one. So I'm going to compare California to, I mean, you could compare California to like a historical edition of California, but let me do to this question. Let me do like another jurisdiction here. Let me do like Florida. So this is a big piece. It's saying, what is the difference between California code and Florida code, or Florida and New York City? And this will put a side-by-side comparison highlighting exactly what's different. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we chose California actually, because they dramatically changed the code. And so you'll see here, anything highlighted on the left-hand side in blue is unique to California in this case. Anything that's going to be highlighted in orange is unique to Florida. So this is a way you can see, does this jurisdiction have this code section? Do they have this exception to the code that we're relying on to try and find that lowest common denominator for this offsite construction? Because that's really what it comes down to. It's right. The lowest common denominator deployed across the states that we think make sense. I'm curious from Jennifer, but it is very hard to get every state, but this will tell you exactly what those differences are.
Well, I mean, I see this such as a huge thing, right? For a manufacturer that ships maybe to like a 6-state radius around them, 500 miles or what have you. This allows them to compare and not have to overbuild just because they don't want to have to deal with line changes. They can actually just find where the discrepancy are based on their type of, product that they actually build and ship, and minimize having to overbuild, which gets passed on to the client, because obviously Florida hurricanes have a much different build than if you're in the northwest corner of Georgia.
Right. Yeah. Right? And this is huge for offsite construction, but also retail. So you get big box retail or like F&B, and trying to deploy across the country. But they're saying, like, how do I take this design we have that worked in Michigan, and does that thing work in Ohio, or does that work in the Dakotas? So that's exactly how you do that.
Love it. I got another question here from Matthew Cooper. Matthew Cooper, I can't even say my own last name right. Geez, Matthew. Good to have you. FHA's delayed HUD USDA 2021 IECC requirements is now just over 4 months away. How many builders are holding off making changes with the hope that it gets canceled or moved again?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had a number to say to give, to highlight that. Unfortunately, I don't have an exact number. Other than just anecdotal, like we have heard that we have people who, obviously are paying a huge amount of attention to those upcoming changes and tracking that. And then once they get adopted, or we know what the change is going to be and it comes in the system, you can do that same comparison. So you know exactly what the language and the difference in language would be. Unfortunately, I don't have an exact number to share. I wish I did.
But this just goes to the complexity of how this is like always evolving and changing. Are they going to adopt the code? What edition is Rhode Island on versus Connecticut? Right. I mean, these are all real things that people have to deal with all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you have something like the LA fires, and that most likely will impact upcoming regulation, and there's a dynamic that changes, and often it gets more stringent, so it's more difficult, but it is a moving target, and it's hard to plan for.
Let's talk about, before we wrap up, the real impact here: time, cost, confidence. Tell me what you're seeing. I mean, you got 800,000 users. You're definitely there's got to be some data on how this really affects an organization.
Yeah. So I'd break it down into two things. One, if you're an end user, so you're the actual person doing the code research, or your boots on the ground, or you're the owner of a business. On the former, I think it's something around 12 or 13 hours saved per month. That's the survey we did with our users. We asked them across the various different features how much time it saved. So self-reported by them is, I think it was around 12 or 13 hours a month. And so that's time savings, that's efficiency in their project, and saving the research within their organization. So that's on the end user. But for the owner, it's a very different value prop. That's more around risk mitigation and risk control. That's trying to avoid construction rework. It's trying to avoid mistakes that happen upstream and then will mature downstream. So I think that, to put a number there, I think it's 3 out of 5 said they avoided some kind of mistake downstream. And honestly, if we avoid one potential mistake, you've just saved a massive headache, probably money, maybe liability. And that's just one, but we actually save, quite a bit.
Well, I mean, it's across the board, right? I mean, all the way to probably even insurance claims and everything else, if you really dig deeper into it. And if you can get your entire team, your developer, your builder, your framers, code official, all on board in the beginning, all of the headaches could be hammered out, or at least you know who to point the finger at if somebody says that's not right.
And the change is still uncomfortable. Like we're changing things, but if you're changing lines on paper,
right,
it's a lot easier than after you've broken ground or you poured concrete. It's a heck of a lot easier. So yes, it's uncomfortable, but if we can get that upstream and we're just changing the drawing set or the documents or the specs before the RFIs happen, before all these issues happen, that's when to catch the mistake.
Before we wrap up, let's talk about the cost of this, and then I want to get into where the future of compliance is going. How do people use your product? Like, how do they get involved? Is it set up for teams? Is it a monthly subscription? Is it a yearly subscription? How does it work?
So there's two big camps. There's what is, you can go on there and you can view the codes and read the codes for free. So I at a bare minimum, I'd really suggest people go try that out, because that consolidation of the codes and the regulations is all there for free. And that's the foundational layer. Now for the automation, AI, project management, education, that whole layer built on top, that's when we work with teams, and it's a subscription based on headcount. So if it's 10, 50, 100, 200 people in the firm, they just have different pricing tiers for that.
Got it. I'm actually going to add your website here to the screen so people can actually see it. But you're absolutely right. Like you were just showing us, and I want to go there. I think was it in features, codes?
Yeah.
Right.
Or libraries if you want to browse.
Yeah. I want to see the library just to show people that, I mean, this looks like what you just showed us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I can go in and click into any one of them, and it starts giving me well, I guess I got to sign up to go too much deeper, but it gives me the general access.
And the table of contents there, if you click into that, you can click right in there, and you can get in and see the code.
Got it.
Yes, if you just click one of those. Yeah. And that'll be the case across there's the Denver code. And that's the case across all the jurisdictions we host.
Right. Yeah. So the website up.codes. That's it. No .com, right? Just up.codes.
We actually have both, but it'll redirect you to up.codes.
It will redirect us to it.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, but there's a plan for anybody that wants to use it, or they can use it for free, is what I was asking. All right. So where do you see the future of compliance going? And then I'll let you have the final words as we wrap up.
Well, I think to that last question, I think the codes will change, and I think they need to change based on the technology and building materials that are evolving over time. So those and other regulation that comes into play, those will change. But I think what we also need is just these increasing AI tools to keep up with that change. So once a change happens, we know exactly what the impact is, what's the impact to our project, and just try to remove all the errors from reviewing a plan set reviewing a specification set, doing the code research initially. So really, this push on the AI side to automate and just be a code consultant or be a second set of eyes as you're working through the project.
Got it. Yeah. So I completely agree with that. I mean, it's really about, if the future of construction is faster, if it's more affordable, if it's more predictable, it really starts with how do we understand, what the rules are. And it all starts with the codes and what we have going on. Correct. Love it. Love it. All right, Scott, I'm going to give you the final words here. Go for it.
Well,
tell us what you want everybody to truly know.
Well, I would just say everything we've built to date, comes from our experiences in the industry, dealing with pain points. But now more than ever, it's just talking to the community. So we just love to hear from people. What are the pain points you're seeing? How can we better solve them? Just surfacing those. So we just love connecting with people. If you want to reach out, you can reach out through the website. You can reach out to myself over LinkedIn. I love connecting with people, talking through issues, seeing if we can help, seeing if other people can help. But I think just elevating that conversation so we know what the pain points are just lets us tackle those pain points.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. All right, Scott, we're out of time. Really do appreciate you. For everybody else that's out there, though, hey, big thank you to all of our supporting members, as you're seeing below. A big thank you to Scott Reynolds in helping simplify the codes for us. And more importantly, it's Wednesday. We're only halfway through the week. You still got 2.5 days to keep building it better. We hope this brought you some value and some better information so you can be more predictable, faster, and more reliable in everything you do out there. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.